It's quite a heartbreaking scenes which I saw when I was there, and I'm afraid that that is deteriorating very fast. For example, when I was in a place called Artibonite, which is the central province in Haiti, where Plan International has been running some child-friendly spaces because gang violence and armed groups have shut down schools several months ago, and that was making life extremely difficult for children, especially children, but everyone. But in one of the child-friendly spaces that we run, I met a 15-year-old girl, and she said she had two children. This is a 15-year-old girl, and she had these two children from two different men. And she said that is her insurance when gangs come. So it's something I can't actually explain in words. It's a very, very difficult situation for children. The Haiti has not been on the spotlight of the media or donors for quite some time, and this is a country where extreme levels of hunger has already been there for quite some time. This is the poorest country in the Americas and the Caribbean region, and more than 300 armed groups have completely shut down schools, markets, and life has come to a standstill.
So who are in the camps for displaced people? Can you describe for us what the conditions there are like?
It is everyone, but we are seeing large number of women and children because they are always the most vulnerable in situation and humanitarian crisis like this. And what we are seeing right now is not just one disaster that is unfolding in Haiti. As I said, there has already been extreme levels of hunger. Haiti has been recovering from the impact of previous storms, and Haiti is just getting ready for the next hurricane season. Then you have the armed groups, taking control of the entire country. So we also need to recognize, in addition to the life-saving support which children and women, those two specific groups need, such as food, medical assistance, we also need to be looking at the mental health and the emotional needs of children. And the recent needs assessment, this is something we do by listening to children, especially girls and women in Artibonite, which is a central province where I was. What we found was that almost half the number of people, and if you talk about Artibonite, it's about 1.7 million people, which is more than the entire population of Adelaide. Half of them in need of food assistance and at crisis levels of hunger. So they need everything. And unfortunately, there is very limited support and limited care available. But I must also add here, Haiti is, of course, definitely on the top of the list, but we are stretched. People need support, and relief agencies and humanitarian agencies such as Plan International, we are dealing with several other emergencies right now. If you look at Sudan, 25 million people, almost the population of Australia, are in desperate need of humanitarian assistance. You're talking about 5 million children in the brink of famine. If you look at Gaza, and especially to deal with Sudan, Plan International Australia, we just launched an appeal. And if you go to our website, this is plan.org.au, you will see multiple disasters which we are responding right now. Then you look at Gaza, where famine-like conditions and hunger, which has been hitting the world hard, especially in places like Haiti and Sudan and the Horn of Africa, continue to take a heavy toll. And children and women, especially girls, because they face extra problems such as violence, sexual and gender-based violence. So that's what we are going through right now. It's an unprecedented situation the world is going through, with multiple disasters unfolding at the same time. And everywhere I go, let it be Haiti or the countries in Horn of Africa, we are witnessing heartbreaking scenes.
Well, the US is evacuating American citizens, but what about Haitians? Where can they go to if they need help?
They are trapped. They're trapped between one crisis to the other. And my visits to Haiti in the past, this is some of the most resilient people, some of the most resilient children I've come across in my life. I've worked in more than 70 countries for the last 30 years, but this is some of the most resilient people I've come across, especially Haiti's children. But the breathing time they are getting between different disasters is really shortening, and that's something to be concerned about. So they end up in a relief camp, and they try to go back home. By then, the next crisis unfolds, and right now, the situation is much more, I would say, dark, because the armed groups have taken almost every bit and piece of the country. We couldn't travel by road. I took a UN helicopter from Port-au-Prince to go to Artibonite, where we were running these child-friendly spaces. And these child-friendly spaces is a safe space. It operates for about 3-4 hours, where children can come. They can have some recreational activities, some play sessions, They have some educational activities because schools have been shut down in Artabanet, which is a heartland of the armed groups, for several months. So Plan International, we worked with local communities. We set up some child protection committees, and then we set up these child-friendly spaces, about 7 of them. We see a large number of children coming, and that's where some of the children come for a few hours. But this is not sufficient. Children and women and everyone in Haiti needs the support they deserve now.
And it's not safe to be on the streets. You described before that you had to be transported to specific areas. Can you describe for us what it's like on the ground?
Yeah, it is. You can hear, gunshots in, let it be Port-au-Prince, let it be other places. My colleagues from Plan International, both staff from Haiti as well as international staff, we continue to operate. Of course, we had to scale down the number of hours we work, the type of services that safe, but of course, we take the safety and security of our staff very seriously. But even when you are in guest houses, for example, when I was in this place called Kone, which is in Artabanet, which is a central province, we could hear gunshots, during daytime and during also nighttime. So we used a UN helicopter to travel because the roads are not safe. It's the least of the problems, but I could not go back to Port-au-Prince at all. So my bags and other things are still lying there. That's the least of the worries, but I'm just saying how difficult and how challenging the operating environments are. And we can't go in one single vehicle because we need to go in convoys, because that's the best way to take care of the safety and security of the staff as well, which doubles sometimes the operational cost to deliver those life-saving and vital assistance which are needed very much on the ground now.
Dr. Uni Krishnan from Plan International, thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you.